the essay exam, right? So your English is good, you're writing it and you're scoring 10 marks out of 100, right? What's wrong? So there's something that you need to understand about how they are testing you. That might not be the best way of testing that, but now we are in a situation. So when it comes to me, my school was where we used to speak Punjabi when we were not supervised, and Urdu when we were being supervised. No English at all. Same happened in the college. So most of the people that we have around in the market right now, the doctors, the engineers, the people from other fields, students, they have the same background. So how I cracked it, and that is exactly what I tell my kids.
Hi there. Welcome to the new session of Meet the Trainer, and today we are in conversation with Syed Faizan. He is a communication instructor at intermediate and advanced level, and he is also an IELTS facilitator here at Saif Trainings, Pakistan. So without further delay, let's start the conversation. How are you, Faizan?
Very good. Thank you very much, Farhan. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Alhamdulillah. So tell us something about yourself, about your experience, how long have you been teaching IELTS, communication classes and all?
Farhan, it's been around 8 years now, entering the 9th year with the field of education, and it's been recently that I have been teaching IELTS regularly. That means on daily basis. And in the last 8-9 years, I've been working with different educational institutes and on different platforms. And along with that, there has been, because my master's is in English language and applied linguistics, so I've been connected with this kind of a thing from always.
All right. So are you providing the online classes or also the physical classes?
Yes. Now it's an online situation that we are having, and it's going to be a one-on-one situation. And I mean, things are getting, after the COVID-19 thing, things are getting different now. So online classes are now the primary thing.
All right. Okay. So before we move on, let me tell you something about this session. We call it Meet the Trainer, and the purpose of having this session is that whenever we get inquiries, they ask the few questions from the instructor, or they usually say we want to meet the instructor. So obviously it's not possible that our instructor meet with every single inquiry. So we have collected all those questions and we are going to ask those questions from you. So you are going to answer, and whenever they will say, so they can watch this video. All right, so moving forward to the first question. Students usually say that now all the instructions are available on YouTube. So we can learn by watching YouTube videos. So why is it important to enroll themselves in a course where a teacher is there and we are interacting with the teacher? So what's the difference between a real-time online classes or maybe the physical classes versus the YouTube classes? What's the difference in your opinion?
Well, Farhan, I believe it varies from student to student.
All right.
Though if we say that this is a generic opinion, I would say that someone having this mindset could be very seriously mistaken. Why? Because I believe that troubleshooting is the first thing. I mean, troubleshooting is the first thing means that you are, you're about to take a test, right? And there's a certain band that you need to hit when it comes to IELTS test, right? So where do you stand right now is something that has to be evaluated in all cases. So what I believe is that when it comes to IELTS test, we have very good, well-formed Cambridge volumes available. And there are practice tests available. So you have a YouTube lecture going on, you have that book in front of you, you have those audio recordings on you, you're good to go. But my point is, first question is that, are you that disciplined? Are you that disciplined that you give an hour or two on daily basis regularly? If it's 7 o'clock, it's 7 o'clock. Number one, that's the first question. Number two, how did you do that analysis, that where do you stand right now and what is exactly working? The reason why I said it varies from kid to kid, because I have came across such kids who are very good at it. So they actually have a summary of where they stand right now, and in most cases, I suggest them to carry on. But I would say, fortunately, in most of the cases, it does not happen. So what actually happens is that you spend an hour or two on YouTube videos, once in a week or twice in a week,
Hmm.
and then ultimately you have an impression on you that you're working on it, but you're actually not working on it.
Hmm.
So what I personally suggest is that you have to have someone with you, and not exactly an institute and a classroom situation.
Hmm.
It could be a friend of yours. I mean, there's some friends of mine who are about to take IELTS test, and we have regular online sessions,
Hmm.
right? So they don't pay me what students normally pay, but they do pay me. I mean, sometimes I ask them for lunch,
Hmm.
for giving them a regular routine thing. So my point is that if you have if you believe that you do not have that uh, on daily basis, 7 o'clock I'll be doing this test or that test, and you have that cheat sheet in front of you and you're working on it. Number one, uh, you need to join an institute or you need to get connected with someone.
Hmm.
Number two, if you're able to do that self analysis for you, good enough. If you're not able to do that, in most of the cases it does not happen, and there are details to that. That is also one reason that you need to get onto a situation where you actually get that regularity.
Hmm.
Because I believe that I'm going a little too much detail, but what I have experienced, Farhan, is that uh, the first thing in whatsoever is your mindset.
Hmm.
I mean, you are to take an IELTS test, you are to hit a band,
Hmm.
you are planning at a country, and you're imagining yourself sitting in a classroom if it's
Hmm.
for students.
Hmm.
You're imagining yourself working somewhere in some organization.
Hmm.
But what is exactly required, if you're not taking that seriously, and it is taken
Hmm.
seriously not by just saying that I'm taking it seriously, there's
Hmm.
certain steps that have to be taken. And
Hmm.
normally it does not happen. So what actually happens is that after like a month or two, or probably hitting bands a little lower than required, then
Hmm.
you're going and hunting for institutes or trainers or whatsoever. So I believe time is important. So we need to take a decision which should not harm us in any way. That's what I think.
All right. So, in a nutshell, they need to be disciplined. And secondly, there should be someone who should assess their level, what level they are right now, and he should take them step by step toward the level 10. All right.
There you go.
Uh,
There you go. Yes.
okay. Moving forward to the next question. What do you think? How long does it take to prepare for IELTS?
Um, Again, it's for everyone. It's different.
Hmm.
I mean, you know that. I mean, the most of the students that we come across,
Hmm.
uh, they sit in an IELTS class,
Hmm.
but they are not able to catch up.
Hmm.
Right? For instance, in a listening test, there are like more than 40 questions. You're not hitting 20.
Hmm. Something is wrong with your mic, Fezan. It's mute. I can't hear you. I can't see you. No voice, no video.
Farhan, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. Apology. So where were we?
I was asking you how long does it take, and you were saying
Time period. So it varies from kid to kid, from individual to individual. If your English language skills are okay, I mean, what is it for? It is for testing where you stand in English language. Because look, language plays a role to bridge to human beings, right?
Hmm.
So there's going to be a set of instruction coming towards you. Would you be able to be a good recipient to it? I mean, that's all what the purpose is. So first up, if you're not good at, I mean, I'm not saying good or bad, but what I mean is that if you're not that comfortable with speaking or listening English language,
Hmm.
I believe it would take you more time, right? And you should give it more time. So we cannot say that it's going to be a tenure of 2 months or 8 weeks. It actually depends upon how much time you're giving uh, to the thing in a day. So if you're attending, for instance, if you're attending a lecture for an hour a day, and the rest of the 23 hours you're absolutely out of it, it would probably take you 8 months, and probably still after 8 months you might not be able to hit what you're aiming at. But if after a 1 hour class in a week, the rest of the whole week you're all into it, right? So things are different. So it's actually about how serious you are, how disciplined you are. If you have someone who is monitoring you, if you take yourself by collar after like 2, 3, 4, 5 days, if someone is absolutely serious about it, I mean, whosoever that person is, whatever the comfort level with English language is, I believe it's a week's time that you get to know what to do. And if you actually continue with that for another couple of weeks or a month or so, you would certainly feel that improvement in the comfort level. I mean, we all know that there are 4 skills that we talk about: the listening, the speaking, the reading, and the writing. So my point is that speaking is the one that is being judged on a separate day, right? When it comes to the test, right? So though there are 4 skills, but this one is given the most weightage. And if you ask any student, this is the one that people are most uncomfortable with, right? So half of it, I believe, is the speaking part, and half of it is the rest of the 3 skills.
That's great.
Though reading is an inlet, listening is an inlet, writing is an outlet. My point is that this speaking thing is going to be something that you can get a hit at. I mean, imagining that kind of a situation where you have a target and you are standing somewhere and you need to bridge that gap. So anything could bounce back. So it has to be a very careful attempt. Again, to be honest and frank with you, I've found most of the IELTS students, as compared to the spoken English language class student, they're more serious because they have some sketch in their mind. But then again, it's all about, I mean, I would also add your schooling into it, your atmosphere into it, the people that you've been working and interacting with. All of that is included. And once you have that picture in front of you, then you would be able to suggest someone that how long would it take. But Farhan, one last thing that I would like to add, that when it comes to English language, in the last 25 years or a little more than that, 30 years, I would say, somewhere around 20 to 30 years, it has been so overpronounced on billboards, on banners, on ads and everything. And people have been, I mean, making something, I mean, pulling something out of it which is not at all required. I mean, there's some factors that influence it. I mean, when I talk about IELTS, when I talk about spoken English, Farhan, speaking with a hand on my heart, it is being overpronounced in a way that people have started thinking that probably this is I don't know, business. Somehow it is, frankly speaking, somehow it is. But trust me, the picture that we have in our mind about IELTS is very different than what it actually is. I mean,
So true.
putting it in layman terms, it's simply a test to see where you stand in English language, right? And those practice tests would help you see how you're being gauged, and that is it. I mean, that is all about it. And the rest is all your dedication and your discipline and how seriously you're looking at it. What is your priority list? Where is IELTS on it? So things like this. So when it comes to the real thing, trust me, it's not that hard as hard it is being pronounced when it comes to IELTS classes or this tutorial kind of a situation.
Yeah. Okay, it was so comprehensive, mashallah. So like what I have concluded from your answer is that I really appreciate your answer. I never thought it that way, that speaking is the half part of your IELTS exam and other 3 parts are the remaining half. So considering that thing, that's so true, because like reading and writing, we have done it a lot in our school system, college and universities, and might be listening as well. But speaking is a different test that we have never appeared in before. So we should give more weightage to this thing. Yeah. Okay. Moving forward, what do you think? What are the common mistakes that people make whenever it comes to learning a language?
when it comes to English, Farhan,
Specifically English.
most of
Yeah.
the
Hmm.
specifically English, this is not an alien language to us.
Hmm.
I mean, again, talking that thing out, the speaking part being more of all the four. Uh, what actually happens is that, I mean, in a classroom situation, I have seen that most of the kids are, when you are talking and they're listening, they're okay and easy with it,
Hmm.
right? When they have a reading passage in front of them, they're able to actually catch what the writer is about to say
Hmm.
or has said. But when it comes down to answering questions
Hmm.
from that listening
Hmm.
and from that reading passage, that is where it actually turns out to be something else, right? But when it comes to speaking and writing, I feel that most of the students feel more dis-ease, more discomfort in those two skills. First up, I probably should not say it, but have you ever noticed, Farhan, that the listening, the way British Council is testing the listening part has something wrong with it, right? Because I mean, I apologize for saying that, but what I'm saying is that, look, when you're talking to me, or even if you are on the news bulletin, or even if you are, I mean, it's a real situation when I'm listening to someone. It's not only the words that I'm listening to, right? So it's your facial expressions, it's the situation that we are in, it's everything around that is like half of it that makes me understand what is going on, right?
Yeah.
So this side has to be taken care of, and probably would be taken care of by the people who are conducting these tests in the next 5-10 years. But right now, I mean, this is something that makes the listening part a little more, right? So you are actually trying to answer questions to someone, I mean, something that you've heard, in which you're not that aided. I mean, you're a little handicapped, that it's being told that there are two people who are talking, a male and a female voice, and they're discussing something. But once again, I mean, if for instance you hit 7 on that recording thing, in a real case situation, you would certainly be able to hit 9.
9. Yeah.
Right? So that has to be taken care of somehow. But I mean, what is there is there. I mean, what is done for now is it cannot be undone. So if I am planning to take this test in the next 1 month or 2 months, or you're planning to take this test in the next 2 months, we would have to go through the same listening test. So this is where we would have to throw double the attention, double the practice, because it's not a listening test this time. This is something a little more than that, right? So the first thing is to realize that this is what is about to happen, right? Your listening is good, I understand, but you would be provided with a situation where you would feel a little handicapped actually comprehending what's going on, right? And then trust me, if you have, what do we call it? I mean, if it's a 60 seconds play track, and you're out of that play track for 5 seconds, I guarantee that you're done.
Yeah.
You lost your goal. You're over. Now, it is not that before the test you just imagine or realize that, all right, these 60 seconds I would be concentrating to my full. No, it actually has to be a practice session in a way that your brain is tuned up, that it, without you very much into it, you are into it by that practice that you do. So it's very much about the practice that you do about the listening part. And when it comes to reading, again, everyone talks about skimming and the rest of the such jargons about reading. Again, the objective in the reading part is, I mean, this is one way of testing it, right? So what I have planned and designed, that I'll give you something for reading, then I'll ask you some questions out of that reading, and then I would rate you that how good your reading is. So again, this is probably not the best way of checking out how my reading skills are. But again, in my situation, this is the way that I would be tested, right? So I need to actually see what the cheat rules are. I mean, this is after having said that your English is okay, right? Once your English is okay, then afterwards all these things are coming in, right? So if you sit with me, you could see my reading or my speaking or my listening or my writing skills, but you have actually painted the picture in a way where I would have to be a little more smart than I actually am to figure out how I could actually get through. How could I crack? I say it very loudly again. How could I crack this system that I get my bands? I mean, you must have experienced it. I have experienced it. That there are kids who are very good at English language, but are like struggling with their bands.
Yeah.
So where actually is the catch? The point is that you actually have to crack the situation the way it happens in the civil services exam, the essay exam, right? So your English is good, you're writing it and you're scoring 10 marks out of 100, right? What's wrong? So there's something that you need to understand about how they're testing you. That might not be the best way of testing that, but now we are in a situation. So I believe that experience is something that can never be matched with anything else. Right? So if you have someone around you who has been gliding through this in the past 2, 3, 4, 5 years, or has seen like 50, 100 or 200 or 300 students and have taken their feedbacks and have tried working and sketching strategies on it, so that is something that should be very seriously taken care of.
Yeah, that's true. We have seen these examples, the people who are really good in speaking, they believe they're really good in writing just because they can write a very, like comprehensive content. And when they appear in IELTS exam, they don't score good because it's not
They got hit.
English. Because English is the stage 1 and the stage 2 is the IELTS strategies. So you need to be aware of those as well. All right, very good. So what is your method of teaching? I know it's a very subjective kind of question, but still, if you put it in a nutshell and give us a bit of the conclusion of that. So what is your method of teaching in your classes?
Well, Farhan, the first thing that I make sure that my kids start believing in it is the suggestive meaning of a word. You see, when we go to schools, in every school, once we're done with the lesson, I'm talking English, I'm talking other subjects as well. In the exercise on our notebooks for 10 good years or 12 good years, what we are actually being trained off is that one of the segment in the exercise is words and meanings, or word meaning, right? So we have a list of 10 words that we know the meaning of, or we've been taught by the teacher, and we put it on our notebook, and we do this practice for 10 good years, right? So what actually our brain perceives out of it, that if there's a word, you have to know the meaning of the word. That's important. Which is, in the case of IELTS, in the case of spoken English, in the case of language, very untrue. Very, very untrue, right? So that is where the concept or the idea of suggestive meaning comes in, right? So what you're saying, out of all what you've said, in like 2 sentences or 3 sentences, there are 2 words that I have no idea about. I have no idea. I mean, this is the first time that I heard those words. But out of the tone of your voice, out of the facial expressions, or the rest of what you've said, if it's a reading test or if it's in the listening, so I would have to actually suggest a meaning to that word. This happens in Cambridge. The kids who have a background from Cambridge schools, they have they have this understanding of suggestive meaning, and that is one reason why they're more confident with, for instance, newspapers, or why they're more confident with any content in reading, and that includes the reading passages of IELTS. So the first thing that I do is that I talk it out to my kids, that if you have a sentence, if you have a para, if you have, I mean, any passage that includes 150 words and there are 10 words that you have no idea about, you need to actually hit that idea of suggestive meaning. So you would, if you give suggestive meanings to 10 words, trust me, 5 of them would be uh, half right, and 3 of them probably would be somewhere near to it, and 2 of them would be absolutely wrong. But what actually happens is, if you go for the literal meaning thing, as soon as the first word hits, and the second sentence you have another word, and the fourth sentence then you got 2 more words, you're done. You stop reading it the way you should read because of that confidence that flew out of you while coming across those words. So the first thing that I do is, and this happens in listening as well, right? So when I listen to a term that I've not heard before, same happens. I actually we lose that confidence of scoring what we want to score as soon as we are being cornered by those words. So the first thing that I communicate to my kids is to start believing in suggestive meanings, and that is, once you start believing in suggestive meanings, there's another benefit to this. That is that your word bank improves, your vocabulary improves. How? That probably you come across one word once, you gave a suggestive meaning to it. You again came across the same word after a week. So you would be knowing that I came across this word previously, and this was the meaning that I gave to it, and now it's being used in a different context where that meaning sounds a little more right. So when this happens to you twice or thrice, you literally Google it or go down to the dictionary and you see the literal meaning to it. So giving those suggestive meanings to words is actually preparing yourself to actually really go ahead and Google it, right? Once you have a meaning in your, and when you go with a word to the dictionary right away, you do not have any context of that word in your mind. But once you have done that practice twice or thrice, things are improved. Now you have a meaning of that word in your mind, and now you're looking at the dictionary or you Googled it. So you getting the literal meaning, and you have something in your mind as well. So you connect it well. And this is exactly what is required when it comes to improving your comfort level or your word bank in a language. So this is the first thing that I do, that I make the kids believe in suggestive meanings. I already told you that, Farhan, if you're not ready for something, I mean, if my father or mother tells me to take IELTS exam, I'm not going to be a good student, right? If I am a serious candidate and I know what am I aiming at, so I would be a good student. So that's the first thing. Then is the suggestive meaning thing. Then what I exactly do in my classroom situation is that the speaking session that we have, I very firmly believe in it, that in that session, the trainer need to turn out to be a facilitator right away, right? Now, this is another problem that comes in from probably the school system, that our teachers have a habit of speaking more, the way I'm speaking more right now, right? So we actually we become habitual of taking 50 minutes out of a 60 minutes class, right? So if you're speaking more than 15 minutes, your kids are done in a speaking session, right? So you need to make them speak, becoming a facilitator. Now this idea is being rolled out pretty finely. I mean, I've seen many people doing it, but like a couple of years ago, it was a little different, right? So the kids were getting impressed of the teacher and the way he's like flying in the air with the flowery vocabulary that he has and everything. But the kid himself is once again that passive listener, right? So in the speaking sessions, I make sure that my kids are speaking. And trust me, Farhan, I tell you something, the articulatory system, I mean, you remember we studied it, it plays a vital role. I mean, the lungs are actually giving you that air blow, right? And then is the articulatory system. This articulatory system becomes habitual of the language that you speak, right? So if you are a native English speaker or Urdu speaker or Punjabi speaker and you're trying to switch on another language for a while for taking IELTS test or whatever, this complete articulatory system that starts with the lips and then the uvula and the alveolar ridge and the teeth and everything, they fight back. They don't want you to speak it, right? And I mean, it's not in the books exactly, but trust me, it's going to be in the books in the next 5-10 years. That same kind of an articulatory system, the other way around, is on our ears as well, right? So far, we believe that there's an eardrum that shakes with the voice and sound waves, but it's more than this. Certainly, I believe it's more than this. So you're habitual of a language, or you're not habitual of a language. And I tell my kids, because uh, I count now this as a good thing, that my schooling, Farhan, was not from a school where we used to uh, talk in English, right? So the first time I heard someone in my university saying, it was a classmate of mine, that we were talking, I mean, our school times. So one of the kids said that, remember we used to get beaten up for eating cotton candies? And Farhan, I was stuck. I was like, cotton candies, what are they? And then I got to know it's lacha, right? So if you have been calling lacha cotton candies in school, that probably makes you a little different over here, but it helps you in such situations, right? Your system all over is actually habitual of this language. But when it comes to me, my school was where we used to speak Punjabi when we were not supervised, and Urdu when we were being supervised. No English at all. Same happened in the college. So most of the people that we have around in the market right now, the doctors, the engineers, the people from other fields, students, they have the same background. So how I cracked it, and that is exactly what I tell my kids, and this is more related to speaking, because once you become a speaker, once you start speaking more comfortably, the English that you already know, I mean, no more English, no new expressions. The English that you already know, and you know it, trust me, they know 70% of it, but the problem is that they're not able to speak it. How I did it, Farhan, was that I started speaking in a funny way, right? So the people around me were not able to actually, catch me that I'm trying to improve my English language skills. So I used to come back home and loudly tell my mother that, Mama, I'm hungry, do we have food? Right? Now, they used to think, my brothers and sisters and my mother and my family members, that he is not trying to speak in English. He's just saying it out in fun. So what happened was, I didn't do it this technically at that time, but now I realized that what I did was that without having that opponent force, I mean, those facial expressions of people, I punctured my way into getting my articulatory system habitual of this language, right? So this is exactly what I tell my kids, that try speaking in English in fun with your friends and family members, right? Take small ready-made sentences and I mean, I'm taking too long on it because I'm going in detail of everything, but these are certain things that I apply at different stages in my classroom situation, and which I believe, Farhan, they really work. They really work. When you tell someone that you know English, 70% of it, you don't need to learn it, you just need to be comfortable, they feel acknowledged. And trust me, anyone who believes in himself is a Superman, right? So this is how things go on in my classroom situation.
Well,
It was a little less technical, I know.
Yeah, so I also second your opinion that every word that we listen to, we know it already. So almost 70% of it. The only problem that you need to deal with it is just to speak it out. That's a bit more creative. You need to train your brain to speak in English, the way your ears are trained to listen to that in English. So that's what happens whenever we are watching cartoons and English movie. So we understand most of it. Even with subtitle, without subtitle, we understand that. So it means we know the vocabulary, even because of the reading, because after intermediate, all the books are in English. Or maybe even before that, we like, it's been long, we are reading books in English, we are learning the English subject from the one class, So we know most of the vocabulary word. It's just about applying those words into your speaking and also in your writing. Okay, so what is the key of getting good bands in IELTS? The last question.
A dedication. It's consistency and dedication. I mean, if you're onto it and you're being supervised and you're being tested regularly, that's the key. So if you're not doing practice tests and you're going hitting an even a 9 band, uh, trust me, you could be better. I mean, there's nothing better, but you could be better. So going through such kind of sessions is very, very important. Is very important. So what I believe is that you consistently stay with it till the time you take the exam, and make sure that you're being supervised. So if you're not being supervised by a trainer, if you're not being supervised by an institute, a classroom situation, it could be any generous friend of yours. Yeah. It could be your elder sister who's taking care of it, but there has to be someone taking care of it. I very firmly believe in this, that there has to be someone supervising you, even if you're very disciplined or something.
All right. So dedication, practice, and supervision. These are the keys of getting good bags.
These are the keys of it.
That's great. Well, I believe that is it for today, for this session. Thank you so much, Faizan, for your time, for your answers, for your opinion, for your suggestions. I hope that all these of your answers are going to give benefits to the listeners. So thank you so very much, Faizan, for your time.